Hi guys, this is Niman Kenkre for BlueFirePoker.com, and today's video is going to be part 2 of 3 of the next series in the Protege series, which is a 25-cent, 50-cent session that Chris has played. You could see, I recommend that you watch part 1 if you haven't seen that before we get to this, because we're going to pick up the action right where we left off. So with the necessary reads and stuff on the players. Chris, do you have any comments, anything you want to talk about before we get started?
No.
Okay. I guess we'll just jump right into it then. Are you ready to go?
Let's do it.
Okay. I think we left off the last video talking about the hand with the 10-7, where given the action, we had actually concluded it would have been better for you to have raised. Despite it looking like he can't call with worse there on table 3. I won't review the details of that. Anybody who wants to revisit that can look at the very end of the last video, and we'll pick it up immediately from there. You ready?
Yes.
I do like the call with the suited ace as opposed to the re-raise that seems to be in vogue here. Again, that is a hand that you can occasionally throw in a re-raise and use it as a semi-bluffing hand. I think that's reasonable. Again, a lot depends on how well your opponent plays post-flop. The better he plays, the worse he plays, the more you want to just call.
Right on. And to that particular, sometimes I'm going to bet that flop, right? But that particular time, that player, I noticed he seemed to be really like ABC. Like he either, if he hit the flop,
he bet, and otherwise he checked, and then he just folded if he bet.
Right. And actually, I'm making a note on him right now because I hadn't made a note on him before, but I had observed him play, quite often. So I made the note then that he was very aggressive, but he'd give up easily if he didn't hit.
Right. Okay.
So that's why I bet on the turn.
Yep. No, I think that was well done. So you don't want to get into any kind of fancy play syndrome with him, like going for check raises and things like that. You just want to, if he shows you he doesn't have it, just come right out and bet.
Oh, table 1 is interesting because I think I should have just let go of this here when he bets the
turn.
Turn, yeah.
I'm not going to necessarily agree with that. This has to do with a lot of. Okay, this isn't actually a really important point. This may spawn a little bit of a discussion. Typically, and especially at lower limits. I think the games tend to be a little more aggressive as you get to higher limits. But at lower limits, typically, when you've got a hand that's like of your strength, that's not quite as good as top pair, we're talking like second pair type hands, the usual way to play those hands is when you're against the pre-flop raiser, you want to call one time and then fold if he continues to show heat. Obviously that's flexible based on opponent, game flow, and board texture. And the details about that I won't get into because it's too complicated, but you know what I'm talking about so far, right?
Yes.
Now, here's the catch, though. You can't automatically do that because good players will eat you alive. If you just automatically, every time, call the flop with, all your medium strength hands that are like weaker than top pair or like a weak top pair type hand or worse, and then always fold the turn, then you're going to be a little bit exploitable, because the hands that you call the flop with are going to be weaker than top pair a lot of the time. Either that or you're just going to have to fold the flop too often. So a good observant opponent is going to double barrel you to death. So you do need to call a second time sometimes, although that shouldn't be your normal play because usually you're not good against his range when they do that. You do need to do it sometimes to maintain your balance. Now, a hand like this is a very good type of hand to do it a second time. The reason is you have to do it sometimes, so you may as well choose the hands in which your hand does have some showdown value if he was double barreling, but if he wasn't, you actually do have some kind of weird draw or some kind of something that you can hit. Do you know what I mean? So, in other words, if the flop was 10-8-4 and you called, and then the turn was another 4, so in other words, you can't hit anything unless you hit your set, then I would more recommend just folding to the second bet. But in this case, you probably, if you're behind, you probably have 6 outs. You know, you've got the 2 9s as well as the 4 7s. So because of that, you can use a hand in which you have more outs to call, not because you're calling to hit those outs, but simply to defend against double barrelers, but then have the additional equity of having some ancillary outs. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I understood it. I understood it even before this hand. It doesn't, and it does apply to this hand, except that since we've been playing with this player for a while, I think you could note that it's just not the case with this player. That's where the mistake was. So I was actually probably onto the right idea, but not with this player. This guy hasn't probably raised yet pre-flop, you know. So when he comes out firing hard on the turn, to me, it's pretty likely that he's got an overpair at the board. That was why I thought I made a mistake.
Yeah, okay, and that's fair enough. I mean, you've actually done a better job than I have of getting a good beat on this player. I didn't quite remember that from part one. So I'm actually glad on 2 counts. One is that you understood what I was talking, and second that you realized that it wasn't quite applicable in this case. So that's very deep thinking, and I'm very very happy that you're going that far with it. Again, the general point that's important to hit home to you as well as to our members that are watching here is that you need to be intrinsically balanced. Sometimes you need to call 2 barrels with weaker hands in order to be to keep yourself from just being blown off of hands. And the times to do that is when you do have additional outs as a thing to fall back upon. And this was an excellent example of that. So that was a really important concept that we hit on right off the bat. So I'm glad we had that. Guys, when I'm referring to the Blue Fire members now, if you guys have any questions on this concept or you don't fully understand, make sure you spawn a discussion of it, both in the forum about this video or in the just in the comments or whatever. I think it's a really important concept that will help all of us and is applicable across all limits. Should I continue with the video?
Yeah.
Okay. Where's my mouse? I lost my cursor. There we go. Yeah, I know you, and that's the problem here. I know you want to shove that. The problem is he's only got to call 7 more into a big pot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just wanted to shove it because I thought he could have ace-king there, because it's such an odd river bet, but...
Well, if you think he could have ace-king, why not just call? Yeah, I don't like that. Let's talk here for a minute. The problem, I see why you're shoving, because you're shoving because he suddenly showed so much weakness. You know that there's a 4-card straight on there that he can't have, right? So you decide to shove because you feel like he can't support his overpair against that board. However, what you may or may not have realized is that he only had $7.35 left after his river bet, and the pot was already much bigger than that. So there was no way that he would fold an overpair, right?
Right.
So I think that the raise is a very, very bad play on your part because you're just forfeiting it. He's never going to fold. He's never going to fold a better hand than pocket 9s, ever. On the other hand, it was such a weird, small, tiny bet that if you do think, you were getting a great overlay. You bet 4 into, was it 27 or for 23, something like that. You were getting some insane, odds, on your call, something like 7-1 or something. So if you did think that there was a 10-15% chance that he actually doesn't have pocket 9s beating, you could call. But the raise has no value because he's never folding a worse hand when he has such an overlay. If you guys were deeper, then the play would be reasonable. But because he's clearly showing that he's scared of the 4 straight. But there's not enough of a stack to do that, and your logic is flawed there. Your logic being you thought that maybe he could have had ace king. You beat ace king. You don't need to raise. Just call.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's absolutely no value.
Well, my logic was if he has ace king, he would call with ace king, but it's still, it's not enough of a, it's not a big enough part of the range.
Right, and I mean, I don't think he would call with ace king there. I mean, you've called 2 bets on that board and now raising all in. You really think he would call with ace king on a 10,
Well,
8,
with a
6, 5, 4?
missed flush draw on the board, and he has to call 7 into whatever, and it's like the only hand he's played in an hour.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to call it very often, and even if he does, I think that I mean, the pot's enough.
I think he's going to call very often. I still think he's going to have ace king very often.
Right. I mean, if you think he's going to have it like about 12 or 13% of the time or more, then you can call that river bet because you were getting a very, very good overlay on the bet. So otherwise you can just fold. Raising is the worst play there because he's never, But I don't need to browbeat you. I think you understand that.
What if I wanted to call just to see what he had?
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
I mean, it was that ridiculous, and it was that good of pot odds. It's like...
Yeah, I know. Sometimes it's frustrating, but you can bleed off some money like that. I mean, I would have tended to fold there because I would have put him exactly on that. I would have thought he actually had a higher overpair than that. And I just... It was unfortunate because he's going to be scared of that board, but there's nothing you can do because he's not deep enough.
Yeah.
All right, shall I continue?
All right.
So you played pretty much flawless poker and through the first video, the first 17 or 18 minutes, but right away you made a pretty grave mistake there. So I guess your streak is broken, but I think that
if that's grave, then
Well, no, I do think. I mean, we don't have to get into an argument about that. I do think it was a pretty grotesque mistake. I just don't think that the parlay of him having being behind pocket nines and calling, if you compare that versus calling your shove versus him ever folding a better hand versus the overwhelming percentage of the time that he's going to have you beat and call that, it makes that a very, very bad play. It's not, when I say grave, it's not like it cost you a stack or anything.
Right, that's what I thought you meant. Okay,
Yeah.
right.
It was
No,
just a technically very poor play. Yeah. What's going on? Why is the video not running? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought my mistake. I thought I had played it. This is just filler talk, but did you play on Stars today?
Yes.
Was that the new update has just made the interface horrible, hasn't it?
Are you referring to the problem where it made it the different tables would bounce up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did you email them? You emailed them and they
did.
said they were working on it, and then they fixed it once I logged out and logged back in.
Oh, okay, good, all right. Because so I guess it's just a 1-day thing. So this conversation is going to be completely irrelevant by the time this video comes out. But today is July 2nd, and it was just a miserable interface. I couldn't play, and neither could anybody else. So it was I actually quit early just because I couldn't deal with it.
Table 4, with the ace king, those flops, sometimes I'm not sure how to deal with those flops. And I mean, obviously,
I think this is the kind of flop you kind of have to give up on just because I don't like the bet there. You could sometimes win it. Hold on a second. I want to pause here because I want to talk about table 3 as well. The flop is so well coordinated, and it doesn't really help you, and you're rarely gonna fold out a better hand. It's just shame because you raise on the button, no one's going to put you in a hand as good as ace king. But usually, I on a board that plays as well, that is as coordinated and is so far away from you. You don't even have any backdoor draws or anything. I usually just like to just check, hope that you can just get it to showdown or turn an ace or a king, and just give up if they bet at any time. That's what I think is, on those types of boards that work so well. That's what I think is the best play. Now talking about table 3, what happened? I just missed it. How did the after the? I know that you had made a 150 and he just made a min re-raise, and you called that. And so what happened on the flop?
He bet 2, and I called 2.
Okay. Yep. All right. I'm with you so far then. So far so good. Yep. I'm gonna call this again, obviously too, right?
Yeah.
I keep forgetting for some reason that I'm on the controls here.
This is fun. This is funny what he ends up having.
That's funny. Too bad he didn't turn a set instead of the 9 hitting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing to make a note of, either a real note or a mental note. How he played pocket 8.
By the way, just quickly, that's one of the things that you've taught me I've gotten really good at. If he had turned a set or whatever, river to set, like, I would have known that my straight was good, even though it's the bottom straight and whatever, and I would have gotten value out of it, you know?
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah,
I think
yeah.
in the past, one big problem I had is, like, if a board looked scary, I would just get a little confused and I'd lose my self-confidence. I'd be like, wait, maybe there's some weird hand he could have had. He could have been playing, Queen 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I remember that about you. You used to see goes to not get enough value, and I'm glad to see, and I have consistently seen that the new Chris is getting max value out of your hand. So I'm glad you mentioned that, and I can tell you that I've noticed that myself as well.
Now, on table 3, you're going to think that I'm out of my mind, but it was player dependent.
Yep. You're talking about the re-raise?
Yeah.
No, I don't mind it at all. I mean, you need to, players are you can't let players beat up on you, and there's nothing wrong with taking trash hands and turning them into bluffs. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I don't know why you said I would think that you're out of my. I mean, I would think you might be out of your mind if you called with that hand. But
Right.
no, I think that's a fine 3-bet. The 3-betting there is really more a function of your opponent's frequencies and his perception of yours, than anything else.
Yeah, basically, I saw him as kind of a tight player, and I didn't see him. I played with him before. I don't see him call or re-raise a lot. So.
I want to quickly talk about table 2. The flop was Jack 3-2 rainbow, and you had Ace 4, Ace 5, right? And it checked to you on the button, and you bet.
Yes.
I like that play. However, those are the types, and the reason I like the play is because it's the kind of board that's going to be very difficult for your opponents to continue, right? Because Jack is going to overcard a lot of pocket pairs, so even if they call once, they may be able to be blown off it with another bet, and they're not going to have any draws. The 3 and the 2 won't have helped them, so the only thing that could have really helped them is a Jack. So you're going to take that down a large percentage of the time with that bet, and it was a rainbow, so there's no flush draw. So I absolutely like the bet, and it was the correct play. But one thing that I want to point out is sometimes when you have a gut shot and you're closing the action, it's those are some of the times, because I advocate relentless aggression as much as you can get away with, you know what I mean? But again, to provide balance, every once in a while you have to check back, and you want to find the right hands to do that with, so that you're not only balancing yourself but getting some value out of your balance. And in that case, in case somebody was lurking for a check raise, they had a set of 2s or 3s or whatever, checking back with a hand that can hit like a gut shot, like a draw that can't support a raise if you bet, is something that you could do. Now, that being said, I'm not saying you should have done it on that board. I agree with your bet on that board, specifically because it was a rainbow Jack 3-2 board for the reasons that I just explained. But I just wanted to bring up that point. In general, when you're closing the action, you have got last action, you can close with a check, and you've got something like a gut shot, those would sometimes be good candidates to check back.
Okay.
All right? Okay. given that you're gonna take the pot three-way, if you limp in against a limper there with the ace ten of clubs, I think I would have preferred a raise when it came to
Okay.
you. If you're in the big blind, I like a check if the small blind folds. In that case, I like a check quite a bit for the reasons that we talked about with your ace jack that opened up part one of this series. But in the small blind, when you've got a hand like that stands to be the best, I think you want to play it heads up, because you're going to take it without making anything a lot of the time. So I think I slightly prefer a raise there.
Got it.
I was just looking at table 2 and was looking at your jack 8 of hearts and was thinking that might be a good 3-bet bluff candidate because it does have some value. And look what you would have flopped a straight, but then again, I guess there's poison there on the turn. Kind of irrelevant. I'm not saying that you should have necessarily 3-betted. It's just something that I was looking at as one that I might have. Which in the end would probably have cost me a decent sized pot, it looks like. Did you see that Manchester United might be signing Michael Owen?
I wouldn't go near him.
Yeah, I'm shocked that Man U's looking at him. Of course, this news is going to be stale by the time this video comes out. We'll know where he is, but just thought that was kind of shocking, considering his other suitors have been, teams like Stoke and Hull.
Well, since you heard it here first, but what's not stale is Newcastle not to join the Premiership next year. You heard it here first.
Oh yeah, no, I don't even think that's much of a statement there. I think they're a mess. They have to play a bunch of their players' pay raises, even though they got relegated because of their contracts.
I heard that.
Okay, I thought you were about to check there with the ace-2 of spades. Definitely a good spot to bet. You know why, right? See, I talked about that.
Because the board, like one high card and two and uncoordinated.
Yeah, uncoordinated, one high card, two low cards, and it was exactly, and a rainbow. That's what that was. I know there was a third point I was trying to make. Rainbow, so no flush draws, no real legitimate straight draws, and it's not three babies, but one big one, only one in the playing range, and not an ace either. A queen is a good one because it's going to overcard pocket pairs, but not the card that someone's going to have in their hand as often as they'd have a king or an ace.
Now on table 3, you might see I decided to, because it was such a busy board, I decided to
check twice.
Check twice, and it turned out to be a good decision.
Yep.
Just check
Yeah. I like the play. Very well done. I was watching tables 3 and 4. I missed what happened on table 2. How did the pot? How did it get to be like that? What happened? I'm just gonna pause here.
I believe he raised.
Did you 3-bet the fives? I don't really like that if you did.
No. He raised pre-flop, and I just call.
Well, how did the pot get to be so big then?
Because on the flop,
how much
I bet it out.
Yeah, I saw you bet it out, but the pot was already kind of big on the. I mean, I'm on.
No, I just bet and he called.
All right. Okay.
I checked the turn now, right? I mean.
Yeah. No, yeah. I just thought that the pot was, when I looked up and I saw you betting the flop, the pot looked kind of big. Maybe you just opened for a bigger amount. I just missed the pre-flop action. Sorry about that, guys.
And then
I
he
don't.
bet so small, I called it. I mean, I think he can have ace jack or ace
Yeah.
king.
No, I would definitely call 250 there with the pair there for sure. And now he's never going to bet unless he on the river here after you've called the turn bet, because he's probably going to put you on a queen. Yeah, I think you can fold to this bet. Interesting though, it's only half pot. You'd think he'd. It's kind of an. I don't know. It's hard to. I don't know. It is kind of interesting. I wonder if he could have like king jack there. Let me just pause for 1 minute. Maybe he's just trying to get paid there with a 10. I don't know, but.
I think he bet the full pot.
Oh yeah, excuse me, my mistake. Yeah. I saw the pot after he bet, and I saw the amount, and I think that was my mistake pre-flop too. Sorry about the confusion there. Whoa, something just happened. I'm gonna just pause the video here for a minute. Hi guys, this is me. I hope that didn't cause too much of a glitch. I don't know what happened while I was recording. My media player just closed out and gave me some Napster announcement or something. So I had to pause the Camtasia recording, reopen the video, and then try to bring it up to where I was. So I know it won't be exactly where I was. It must have created a little bit of a glitch. Apologize for that. I hope that didn't cause too much of a problem on your end. We're just picking up right where we left off. It shouldn't, presumably that won't be a problem for anybody. I think we were just finishing up that discussion on the fives. I got confused with the pot sizes too. Yeah, I've just made a mess of the last last 3 or 4 minutes of this video. The reason why I thought he bet half pot was because I saw the amount in the pot after he bet, and I thought that I didn't realize that the pot had already incremented his bet. I didn't realize that that's how they, because I had changed my settings on mine to not do that. So anyway, I think we're back on the same page and we can continue running the video. Anything to say, Chris, or are you with me?
No, I'm right with you.
Okay. Again, sorry about the glitch, guys. So far, I'm seeing a pretty clean technical session on your part. I haven't seen any mistakes other than the one that we talked about with when you shove the nines. Nothing remarkable either, but showing a very solid fundamental session so far, I guess. A few things here and there, like maybe not quite being opportunistic enough, not taking certain hands that should be played heads up, but for the most part, I'm happy with what I'm seeing. I think we'll go another 5 minutes or so of actual play time, so that'll leave us with enough footage to do a part 3. How does that sound to you?
Yeah.
All right. Yep, definitely agree with the continuation bet with the threes. That's not a real good candidate for a hand to check back. Simply because the combination of you get a little bit of everything there with that. You get a little bit of protection. If your hand is best, you can sort of bluff and set up a multiple barrel bluff against hands weaker than a king if it's not, and well, I guess those are the two main things. I was I was going to say, because there's 8 cards that can give you an open-ended straight draw too. So, there is a little bit of a building the pot aspect of it as well. How do you feel? I've been critiquing it myself. How do you feel about your game and the way it's progressed?
No, I feel a lot stronger. I mean, confidence. Some days it lacks, especially on the wild ride I was on. As far as moving up and then moving down, but it's good. It's a good thing to check in with you and see that you basically agree with most stuff I'm doing. I'm not too worried about like mistake here, mistake there, or the fact that you think I might be missing a few opportunities, because as you noticed before, I used to miss a lot of opportunities, and I think a lot of it too is just getting used to playing multiple games and stuff,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
really, and I'm really focused. You can see how much work I'm putting into this. Like when we talked about it, like I'm really focusing on what's going on and what my opponents are doing and what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I'm really glad to see that. I hope that continues. I know you're really fired up about poker through this project, and I think that I think that that's something that I, I'm glad to see you putting in the work. I want to actually make a quick comment about the hand on table
Okay,
two,
sure.
before I. But let me just finish this thought. One of the things that is common mistake among a lot of players that keeps them from being as good as they can, and which was the case with you as well, in the past, is a little bit of just mental laziness. You have the acumen to be a very advanced player, but you just don't have the mental, I don't know, or didn't have the mental discipline or fortitude, I don't know what the right word is, to really just pay attention to all the factors that you need to pay attention to really soak in all the variables. You just kind of on autopilot a little bit, and the players are good enough today that you're not going to be able to win if playing on autopilot. I wouldn't be able to win playing on autopilot. And so, not to mention that when you really zero in, you're going to improve such that, if you ever do go on autopilot later, you'll have a greater skill set to fall back upon. So I'm really glad to see that.
Yeah, and one just quick comment about that, actually, that I don't think we've ever discussed that might be interesting to people is, it's not like I was lazy, period. I think there's a reason I was lazy, and I think there might be a reason why a lot of players get lazy. Now that I can check in with you and I can get I could be, I can take 8 days a row of a loss, right, which actually happened to me recently. And if I check in with you and you think I'm playing the hands well now you know what I mean? It's kind of got my confidence again. I'm like, okay, well, I got to keep doing what I'm doing. It's just luck. But I think a lot of times we as poker players get beaten down because we go through a bad patch. We lose our confidence, and we do get lazy because we're like, you know what? It's just maybe I'm not that good. I don't know anymore. I've kind of lost the thread. I'm just gonna,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and I'm really glad that you've stayed strong that way. I mean, I know that I recently went through a downswing myself, and you lose a bunch of sessions in a row, it can really tax your confidence, and you can't, if you're playing well, you have to continue to believe that believe in yourself, and that's one of the most important characteristics of continuing to play well, which is to be self-critical, to be able to identify when you're not playing well, but then also have faith in what you're doing, even if the short-term results haven't worked out the times that you are playing well.
Yeah, you need that coach, to assure you, because if you think that you're thinking critically but it's not working out because you're getting poor results and you think maybe it's because you're making the wrong judgments, you may even go to autopilot just to say, well, that's better than me, making these silly plays that aren't working,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
sometimes it's hard to, not mean results, not mean something about your play.
Yeah,
So.
no, I mean, that's well said. And at the same time, the results are somewhat of an indicator of how you're playing. So you can't just ignore results over a period of time and just always say, oh, I'm running bad, I'm getting sucked out on, because sometimes maybe you're doing something wrong, you're not playing well, and you need to be able to identify that, as well. So it's a fine balance, and it sounds to me like you've kept a good attitude through your downswing, just as you did, you kept your humility, and your thirst to improve while you were flying through the limits as well. So this all bodes well for you, and I hope that the rest of you viewers can take a lesson from this. I know this has sort of been a little bit of a philosophic discussion. I don't know if I hope that I know some of you guys are probably itching to see more hands, but I think it is something important to talk about, and I hope that it can benefits you guys as well. We're nearing the end of this video too, so that we'll have enough footage to do part 3. I did want to talk about the hand on table 2. Now, this is an interesting dynamic, and you have to sort of kind of have a know who your opponents are to be able to do this. But here was the interesting dynamic. This guy, Poker Den, he had posted his blind. He had posted behind the button, so he had dead money in. He was automatically in the hand. It folded to him in the cutoff, and he did not raise. So obviously you're raising there with the king jack, right? Now you raise on the button, and you get re-raised by the big blind. Now there's an interesting dynamic in the hand, and then Poker Den calls. Now you know Poker Den can't be too strong because he had an opportunity to open the pot and he didn't, and he was only in initially because he had posted after missing his big blind. Now, if I'm in the big blind's position, you being on the button raising looks a lot like BS. Looks like you're trying to steal the post money in addition to the blinds. Do you know what I mean? So this is a very good spot for a squeeze play from his standpoint. Now, Poker Den calls you, and you know he's not strong. Now all of a sudden there's a lot of money in the pot to pick up. I think that would be a decent spot for you to run a 4-bet bluff. So he had made it like 6, and this guy made it 6, and now you just throw in a big bet and make it like 21. Now obviously you're not worried about Poker Den, but if the big blind shoves, then you have to call, unfortunately, but you're not necessarily going to be in terrible shape because you are 30% or better against all hands except for aces and kings. So, with your king jack. So, and I think that, so I mean, obviously I don't want to be shoved on and have to call, but the point is, I think that you have so much fold equity and so much power in a re-squeeze play there, simply because Poker Den posted, you raised the post from the button, and the big blind acting has seen all that. So that's the way I feel about the hand. Now, that being said, I have to say, I may be thinking a little bit too deep, and it would be the kind of thing that I would apply at my limits. The onus is on you to determine whether you think that big blind is capable of this kind of thinking and to act on it to try to steal that way. If you think not, if you think that his re-raise just simply means he's got a big hand, then obviously folding is correct. But it was something that immediately caught my eye while I saw it going down.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I'll tell you why. Because the big blind is also a fairly frequent enough 3-better, so that would kind of put the icing on the cake. I just didn't even. It was something that didn't even consider. So I'm really glad I have a new little weapon there that I can consider next time. I didn't consider the post,
Yeah, that really was the kicker there for me. That was, I mean, and I, like, when I saw that, I was thinking, okay, this is total BS, because your hand, which you do have a legitimate raising hand there, you look like BS. Poker Den looks like complete crap, he just, I mean, he can't have anything because he posted behind, and then when you raise, he didn't raise when he had the opportunity, and then when you raise and the other guy re-raises, he just calls. Like, this whole thing is not making sense as a real hand for him. And, you've got a full stack, so you can make it, 20 or 21 without it being an overbet. And now, the big, I mean, I would venture to say your hand is probably better than Poker Den's. And then so I wouldn't mind at all being shipped on by him. Meanwhile, the big blind is going to have crap trying to steal your apparent steal so much of the time, and he's not going to be, he knows that if he's going to play, he has to ship in his whole stack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think I would have liked to have seen that play, as long as you have pointed out, that player is capable of doing that.
Cool. Learned something good.
Yeah, it was definitely a unique spot that came up there, and I hope you'll get to the point where you'll be able to see these things, you know what I mean, and sort of try to get in their heads and realize when they think you're full of it, you know what I mean. Always try to see what you look like from your opponent's perspective.
Cool.
All right, let's go maybe just another minute or two of playtime, and then
okay, I think actually I have in my notes that in a minute and a half there's going to be actually 2 minutes from now there's going to be a hand that I do not like the way I played it. So
okay, do you think
okay,
we can in fact, you know what we can do? Why don't we I think we've got a lot of good stuff in this, and we can sort of whet our viewers' appetites. Why don't we why don't we say what at what time is that in your notes? What time is that going to come?
34:30.
34:30. Why don't we? And this is the overall session is like a 49-minute session. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't we leave that for the end? I think we've got, we're over 40 minutes now of actual video, and that'll leave us enough material and give us something to talk about to start off the next video. I think, what happens is that sometimes we have people. In fact, I'm going to pause here. We have players that don't have the opportunity or just the desire to go through an entire video. So, they watch the first few minutes. I always like to get something worthwhile to talk about if we can at the beginning of a video. So why don't we do that? Let's just see the way this ace queen hand plays out, and then wrap that up, and we'll start with that other hand with our part 3, which will be the last part in the series. That sound good to you?
Yeah.
All right.
What do you think of what I'm doing there?
No, I definitely like it. I mean, it was a min raise, and then I'll just finish playing it. There was I hate to see that. It was a min raise, right, to 1 and then 2 other callers. Your ace queen overwhelmingly stands to be the best, and you're almost definitely going to be better than the 2 callers because they didn't re-raise. A min raise from a short stack. The guy had only $6, so obviously ace queen is not going to play 4-way out of position very well. Ace queen offsuit. So it's a situation where you're gonna win. You're gonna fold out the 2 callers almost every time, and if the guy who opened decides to play for a stack, you're likely to have the best hand against him. So that was definitely the correct play. And unfortunately he sucked out. But
was 7 the number you'd have picked, or?
Yeah. That was a good number. I like it. Yeah, it's enough to let him know that you're serious about it, but not so much that if someone calls behind, you're gonna be pot stuck or anything with a continuation bet. So yeah, I definitely like to play.
Great.
So I think that leaves us to a good stopping point, and that way we can pick up right before you get to your interesting hand there for part 3, and that'll give you guys something to look forward to for the next one. So part 3 will be about 15 or 16 minutes of actual play time, which we should be able to get another 40 or so minute video out of it. I think Chris told me that there were some interesting spots coming up at the end, so that that there should be enough material for a rich final part of this. So, Chris, do you have any questions or comments or anything you want to add?
No.
Okay. Well, as before, I'm definitely happy to see your progress. I think maybe the part 1 you had more difficult opportunities or marginal opportunities to sort of show me your stuff. That this one was a more technical session, but other than the couple mistakes that we talked about, you did play very technically sound. I like to see the way you're playing. I like to see also another thing we haven't talked about. We've talked a little bit about your downswing. I know that you recorded this video while going down and being in the middle of a rough stretch, and you've maintained your discipline and your confidence even as you've been in this downswing. I mean, it's not easy for anyone to lose 8 sessions in a row and then also have to step down. But I've seen you still maintain your discipline, still fold the hands that you should fold, not get chasey, make all the decisions based on merit rather than on emotion. And that's an important thing to be doing, something that even I struggle with at times, and something that will behoove all of you, because I think all poker players have let emotion come into their games at to some degree, and the ones who do it the least are the ones that are going to get hurt by that the least, obviously. So that's another thing I wanted to add.
Cool.
So I guess we'll sign off on this video. As always, you guys can follow Chris's journey on his blog. It's the Blue Fire blog. His member name is Not Good Yet. For those of you who have not been following, he started in, I think it was March, playing 5 cent, 10 cent when I took him under my wing. And he picked up everything very rapidly, and he flew through we decided he needed to build up to 30 buy-ins on his own merit. Before moving up, he'd have to have 30 buy-ins of a bankroll at each limit, and he flew through 3 or 4 limits, 5, 10, 10, 25, 25, 50, and was up at $50 before he finally hit a very rough patch. Lost quite a bit of money, has moved back down to 25.50, and is moving back up now. Hopefully, it's clear to me, and I hope to you how much you're improving, and I hope that your journey and your path is helping our members. Both the low limit players who are going through a similar learning process, as well as the more established regulars that are playing a little higher, that hopefully get some value out of our discussions, from a theoretical standpoint.
Yeah.
As always, guys, please give me feedback in the video forums and in my blog, in Chris's blog, whatever. We'll both of us will be there periodically checking in to answer questions and so on. Hope you're enjoying the series. We'll do part 3. I think we've recorded back-to-back sessions, so we probably won't do that right now. But we'll record part 3 sometime in the next few days and get that out to you as well. That'll be the last part in the 2550 series, and hopefully we'll see you guys shortly at 50 cents and a dollar. Hope you're enjoying this, guys. This is Niman Kenkre for BlueFirePoker.com.